It is the 41st millennium. In this grim dark future, there is no hope, only war. For mankind, we serve and are dedicated to the God Emperor of mankind, the Big Daddy on the golden throne himself. But even though there is no hope in the world, there is hope for one thing. Another good RPG in the 40k universe. That's right, baby. Today we celebrate. Let's go. Thanks to Owlcat, we get to play Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, and goddamn, I am not one to jump ship and evaluate something before I even complete it, but this is 40k, this is the exception. So far, so good, baby. This is excellent, and I can't wait to dive into it today. Alright guys, so Mozu with Negron Tech here, and in this video I'm going to do a quick starter guide on how to make a melee chat. Of course, you know, we always do the guts characters, we're the character building channel sometimes, right? But this, we're going to do our best SIGGY Sigismund impression. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so we're in character selection here, or character creation. I'm not going to get too in-depth with it, but it's very important to know that currently, the way Owlcat set it up, and I'm not a big fan of this, is that the respect is very, very limited. So whatever your Homeworld, Origin, your Triumph, your Darkest Hour, and your Archetype is going to stick with your character. When you try to respect, if you're going to make a warrior, you can only respect to level 1 as a warrior. It's something very, very important to know if you're one of those people that have not bought the game yet and you're thinking about buying it and this is the deciding factor. This is a very, very big deal. Hopefully they're quick to patch this. I really think that at least respect, you should be able to respect the class. Maybe not the Homeworld and Origin due to like the RPG elements and conversations and stuff like that in the game, but it is what it is. This is the hand we're dealt. So I am going to get into the appearance. Just made him bald, you know, whatever. Try to make it a little bit SIGGY-like, but not exactly. So this is going to be very, very difficult. All right, so for the Homeworld selection, very, very important. This is not going to be a very lawful take. I just want to try to make the most Chad strong melee character we can go, like a great sword wielding guy that's able to like charge in and out of combat, do very, very good melee damage. And I think melee is actually very, very good in the game. Don't get it twisted. In the 40k universe, it's not just all weapons and futuristic las guns and stuff like that. Melee is extremely, extremely strong, and it feels good in this game too. So Death World really encompasses everything that you want in melee. You get your toughness, strength, and agility. All three are going to help dealing with melee damage. One thing to note from the beta is that strength now adds a flat modifier to your melee damage. I think the beta was agility, but this increases your initiative dodge chance, decreases the enemy's dodge reduction. I actually think agility is not as good as strength, because getting a very, very good hit chance, you get so many debuffs in the game to decrease enemies dodge reduction, armor, and you know, stats to enable your melee to hit even harder and hit even more often. So just getting the flat modifier is much, much more in line with what I like. Now, the one thing about Death World is that you get trusty weapons. This is very, very good because the crit chance is just great, getting more crit chance, right? Especially 10%, but it's limited to axes, hammers, and las weapons. I already, I'm around the end of Act 1. I have played the entirety of the beta. I don't want to spoil anything, but I don't want to limit, let's just say I don't want to limit myself to just 3 types of weapons. Hammers, using a thunder hammer is like, as a power weapon is just awesome. And I really, really wanted to do it. But for my character, I actually just went with, I think it was, Imperial World. Just because humanity's finest for any characteristics. So that means your strength, your agility, your tough, and fellowship. You can actually get that to plus 10, and I wanted to make my character just more strength focused and just getting as much flat damage as possible. And I didn't want to not use my talents if I was going to use, let's say, a greatsword, for example. Everything else here is very, very good. Just one thing to note with these talents, that you actually have, these are ingrained on character selection. You actually have to take these when you get talent selection and your archetype and your class level up. So you don't just get these, but again, if you're gonna be a Thunderhammer Chad, if you're okay with using axes, hammers, and las weapons, then absolutely Death World is so goddamn good. There is another reason why I didn't go it, and that's because the -5 imp, but I'll get to that in a second. So for my character, I just went Forge World. I did Humanity's Finest. I selected the 10 strength. It's very, very good, and I really, really like Better to Die for the Emperor just because it's pretty much a last stand, and getting plus 10 to all characteristics. This is for the entirety of combat. if you do get in a situation where you get low health, and again in this game, wounds is pretty much your HP bar. You get under 40%, you get plus 10 characteristics, so that's dodge reduction on the enemy. That's more damage, more result. It's just so good. I think it's a very good talent, and there's other good things here too to think about that if you do want to go that. But again, the fact that you do have to take these, and there's so many good talents in the game, especially for melee, I lean to Imperial world, but def roll for melee builds, you can see they're both excellent. So for the origin, also very important. There's a couple things you can do here, but for me, any origin that gives weapon skill is something that I'm gonna lean to. For my character, I actually went with Crime Lord, believe it or not, and that is also why I did not go def roll, because I didn't want to use the -5 int, because for Crime Lord, go back to it, you get Surefire Plan, and you get stacks that are your imp bonus that are going to help deal damage in melee, right? So, or just damage overall. So if the Crime Lord attacks, you get a +10 plus your perception bonus, percent of more damage. I will show something like an example combat log in like the bottom left corner here, but you'll kind of see what this does is at this point in the game, end Act 1, I think I'm like 0.12% more damage. It's nothing crazy, but comparatively to the other features, really, like, it's only Commissar that you get the free weapon skill, and we really want weapon skill. If you're more finesse melee, you can go Navy Officer for the agility, but generally I just think it's really Crime Lord or Commissar, and I like Crime Lord's ability better than At All Costs, because this could only be used once per combat. The very good thing about Crime Lord is that, one, it's on demand, 0 action points, and it's just free damage pretty much, right? It's just free damage. There's actually a lot that you can do here, stacking in and per bonus in addition to make a melee character. I'm not going that route, I'm just going pure strength. But even in that situation, I'm just getting pretty much 0.12%, 12% if you want to say that, more damage. And you get, in my case, with just a +5 int investment, I'm getting 3 stacks every combat. So instead of just getting once per combat, I get my ability 3 times that are on demand damage. It's just very focused on yourself, very melee Chad, like, just very good. At All Costs is very good too, but I feel like it's more of a kind of like support team oriented. And again, the one thing about this theoretically probably is better just because getting a marked enemy and a kill reset with more AP on a kill is just so goddamn good. Like, action economy, you know, I've been saying in Baldur's Gate 3, it's everything in these types of games. And in Rogue Trader, where the difficulties are actually insane, I know BG3 just came out with Honor Mode, but the difficulties being very hard. And if you ever played Pathfinder, Kingmaker, and or Wrath of the Righteous, you know that you really have to min-max. So when it comes to Owlcat, their Pathfinder, and even this game to an extent, character building, min-maxing is one of the biggest draws for people to play this game. So for Triumph, you can just really go whatever you want. It's kind of just like a Lord thing right here, right? Darkest Hour, same thing. I didn't want to lose any toughness. I would not, well, I don't want to lose the carouse, but you just pick one of these that you want to be a little bit less at. Just remember that obviously when you're doing your skill check rolls in this type of game, your team, whoever has the highest carouse for this example, whoever has the highest commerce is the one that's going to be ruined. So it's not too bad that you're taking a negative here. So for class selection in this game, it's Archetype. The only real choice for like the melee chat is going to be a warrior. You can be a melee focused operative, but your stat selection, your homeworld, and the origin is going to have to be different, because you're going to be focusing on using int and perception to exploit and get more percentage damage bonuses. That way, getting analyzed enemies. It used to be called clues. Now it's called I don't even know what it's called now, but yeah. So the warrior is just absolutely excellent. In this game, you have a 1 attack limit per turn with exceptions, right? The warrior from level 1 onward gets to circumvent that. And what happens is that as a melee character in, you know, a game where it's just dominated by futuristic weapons, melters, flamers, las guns, sniper rifles, it's kind of hard to justify how am I going to be in melee and be the brunt, take all this damage and not use cover when there's a cover system in the game, and go out there and try to attack and, you know, be useful. It's kind of difficult. So what you do get is you get 2 attacks per turn if you utilize your things correctly. You get a very patented combo, which is going to be charge. It doesn't say the detail here, but what's going to happen is that you're going to charge from a distance, at least 2 cell distance, and you get a free attack, then you can follow up with another attack. There's a lot of good things that you can do here, and then additionally, almost every melee weapon in the game has AoE. So you really have a very good chance to get in there, disrupt the enemies, charge at those high priority targets, and additionally, just like other turn-based games, you have attacks opportunities. So if you do get a range, and you can set up situations to where, like, I don't have to worry about killing this range character in one turn, because my second melee, if he tries to leave melee, I'm gonna get that attack opportunity and execute him that way. So during the actual character selection, it is a shame that you can't really get in here and you can't look at what's going on right now, right? Like, you can do your stats and stuff like that, but actually talent selections and stuff like that, you don't really know. And again, for the warrior, your strength is going to increase your damage. There's other ways, other modifiers are going to be able to increase your damage too, but this is just something to think about, right? So the warrior, when you actually go in the warrior, you have three selections. You can go arch, militant, vanguard, or assassin. I'm not going to get too into it because I'm playing the game very slowly. I'm not at that point, and it's going to be such a long video going to that. This is going to be kind of a beginner, how to get you on the path to make like a very strong melee. So for characteristics, very important. Weapon skill, it reflects the character's competence all forms of combat. It increases their parry, so it actually increases your defensive ability when you can parry attacks. You get a parry and a dodge roll when people do try to attack you. So having high parry, high armor, high dodge, all in accordance to each other is able to offset you not being undercover, offset you being out in the open and dealing damage in melee while also surviving. Plus, the warrior is just also generally a very tanky class too, so that does help with abilities like endure that I'll get into in a second here. But generally, our biggest damage buff is going to be strength. I'd like to max out strength here. Because I am Crime Lord, I did do 1 in int just for the bonus and a little bit more surefire stacks. But generally, your biggest focuses are going to be weapon skill and strength. Agility is very good too, as it reduces the enemy's dodge reduction. But generally, I actually did not invest in agility at all, just because I wanted to kind of test it out, because agility was the way to go in beta. But you know, it's not really, it doesn't seem necessary so far through the first act, right? And of course, toughness, you really want a good amount of toughness, so you're not going to just be wet paper and melee, right? But generally, depending on your origin and even your archetype too, if you were operative, you would change it up. But as a pure warrior melee, you can focus it up too. If you want to be more tanky, go ahead, just go more toughness, right? But generally, I do like to even, I think in my playthrough, I actually went 50 strength. But either or, they're both very good. It doesn't seem too much of a difference. But what I'm starting to notice in the late part of Act 1 is that the flat modifier that you get from strength, as it increases and with the buffs from the party members, it actually gets crazy. Like, I'm doing way more damage on the release version than I was in beta at any point in time. Maybe because I just have a more experience with the game and learning a little bit about the combat situation and stuff like that. But your big things here, of course, just weapon skill, strength, and toughness. You need enough toughness to survive, strength to deal damage, and weapon skill to actually hit. Increase your tankiness and getting crits in combat, right? Oh yeah, look at that juicy melee. God damn, that is a nice, great sword. Don't judge my character's appearance, guys. So what's gonna happen here is that I don't want to, inherently there's going to be spoilers in this video. I'll mark it as a spoiler. There's no story spoilers, but there is combat spoilers, right? Because it's unfortunate, but when you're actually leveling up and playing the game, you can't look at your archetype, your talent tree going into the game. It's kind of a shame. Like, it's very disappointing, but it is what it is. Again, it's the hand that we're dealt, so it's just something that we have to deal with. All right, guys, not a super in-depth guide because there's a lot of different talents, characteristics, and buffs that you can go through and abilities. But what's going to happen is that you get charge automatically level 1, and as you go through these levels, you can increase your skills, you get abilities, you get talents, and then you get common talents. Where are they? Common talents, and then you also get available skills. Again, I talked about that, but then you get abilities too. Abilities are locked into your class. This is much different than the beta, because the beta you just had literally a mess of everything you could take at once, right? In the actual full release in this game, you can actually lock you into what you can really do. So if you get talents, you can actually take anything that's included in the talent pool and also the common talents. So that's something to think about. If you do get a talent selection, try not to waste it on a common talent, because you're going to be able to get those anyway if you really want to min-max it. And again, I'm playing on daring, I think, which is core, just a regular difficulty. There's no real need to min max, but generally there's going to be a couple things that you're going to want to do. Endure, I think you actually just have to take as a warrior. It's one action point. It's an incredible ability because it gives you the temporary wounds. It increases your tankiness and melee, and in your charge throughout the early game, charge is 2 AP. Your melee attack is going to be 1. And your endure can be your last AP if you need to use it for a tankiness. There's also going to be another ability later on that we're going to take, Sworn Enemy, which I think is one of the best ones. But what's going to happen is that if you need offensive, you use that last AP in your charge auto attack. Because remember, your charge 2, your auto attack 1, unless you're doing an AoE. You can use that last AP before the combo Sworn Enemy for more damage. And again, Sworn Enemy, you're going to do massive, massive damage stacking that strength modifier because it's a flat modifier right there, right? It's just very, very, very good, and it's gonna stack with some other bonuses too. I am gonna look at the other ability because you do only get 3. The third ability to take, it's kind of very, very hard. I don't like breakthrough because then that replaces your charge in the same round. It could be good if you're gonna focus on more of like a, I don't know, like more mobility to get onto. It's more of a utility thing because there are some situations where you can attack dash. It takes a 50% reduced damage, which is very, very big. Positioning is very, very important, but 50% reduced damage is not too good for me when it's just not really worth it to me, right? Taunting Scream, very, very good. Not on a melee carry. I would rather take it on a tank like Abelard, but you know, if you want to make your guy more of a tank, then you can do that too. Forceful Strike is very, very, very good because you gather all your strength. But the thing is with this, that it's not increasing your damage, it's pushing. So you can knock people out of the battlefield, stuff like that, and misposition them to an advantageous position for your team, right? For a big AoE, for your Argenta Melter, for your Cassia, Forceful Gauge, her big AoE, stuff like that. I only took Reckless Strike for the third one because I didn't really need the other ones, and Reckless Strike is a prereq for some further talents and abilities later on down the line that I did see. So that's the ability overview, right? For your heroic ability, your ultimate ability, right? Daring Breach is very, very good. You get some ways to upgrade it. I just took the flat melee damage because it's your strength divided by 2, and because we're strength stacking in this build, I'm like, oh, let's just do more and more damage. There is one more buff that we can get at the end here, and all these are actually good. It's really just utility. The only one that I don't think I would really recommend is which one? Is probably the movement points one, just because I mean it's good, but I rather value these two more, just getting more movement points after each kill, because you can get more than just a flat 10 here, and then getting more tankiness is very, very good, and becoming a priority target, it can really save some of your other party members and stuff like that. And because you're going to be so tanky, you know, you're going to have your endure, you're going to have your temporary wound and stuff like that. It's very, very good. Now, talking about available skills, not really important, more of a, you know, skill monkey thing for the rest of the party to consider. Your MC, like, you get so much coverage with skills from like Pasquale and like other members and stuff like that too. So I did talk about abilities. I'm going to talk about characteristics real quick. Again, going back to characteristics, weapon skill, strength, and toughness. When you get these chances to increase it, just pick any of those. You see I only had the options for certain ones. Agility is another good option too, but again, we're going to be more strength, toughness, weapon skill focused. I'm not really worried about reducing the enemy's dodge reduction. And you'll see here that we have 95% chance to parry. Again, this counteracts the roll of the enemy, so it's not really, you're not 95% chance, you're not going to parry 95% of the time. It doesn't work like that, but it's a roll against the enemies, which is very, very good. But still, having this with a 45% dodge, pretty good, and having over 40% armor, decently tanky, right? So that's the characteristics. You get 3 of them, I believe, 1, 2, 3, and that's that. Next, I'll go into the common talents. So you'll see here your common talents, very, very long. You get things like heavy armor proficiency, you get expert in weapons, you got a lot of things here that are pretty good. There's actually, because I am strength stacked, and I even took a characteristic here as a common talent just because I wanted to get as much strength as possible. Thinking about it min-maxing here, because I took this character with strength, I don't think I was able to take strength in this scenario here. I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly, but just be careful that if you do take a characteristic here, maybe wait a little bit longer to the end, right? But my last common talent here is Better to Die for the Emperor. Again, this is going to go very, very good with the talent that I'll talk about in a second here. Oh, I'll just talk about it now, actually. But once you get under 40% wounds, I talked about a character selection. The plus 10 bonus to all characteristics and resolve, helping that momentum generation. It's just so good. Getting plus 10 here, plus these other ways that you can stack it with your Psychers, your Biomancer. It's just actually kind of really crazy, right? So getting into the available talents, and I think it's Desolation. No, it's Enrage. So Enrage and Better to Die for the Emperor are actually a very good combo, because you're getting a Toughness plus your Agi bonus. Now we're not really stacking Agi, but we still get a very good crit chance improvement just from getting low health. We don't want to like operate below 50%, but it is something very good that when we do get in those oh shit situations, we do become stronger, able to, you know, re-get the momentum and get our heroic abilities, right? And of course, because I am a crime lord, I did take Killing Plan. It's just nice to get that, because we use our crime lord stacks just to do a little bit more damage, and the Killing Plan, actually, because we're stacking so much weapon skill, we get this weapon skill bonus right here to increase our damage on demand at a minimum 3 times a fight. There are ways to reset it, but all these are based off the origin, and just know, depending on your origin, you'll get different part of these common talents and stuff like that, right? I do think Better Die for the Emperor is probably one of the best ones. I took power armor proficiency kind of as a joke, just in case I get it later on. Like, I already know that you can respec at least to level 1 from the warrior archetype, so I'm not really worried about it. This is not the most optimized, but generally, again, for the common talents, you know, maybe take a characteristic. Better to Die for the Emperor, if you do have this origin, and Plan as a crime lord, I think are excellent, because now we get more inherent tankiness when we go low wounds, and then we get much better damage with Killing Plan 2 on demand, and it's not just one use per combat. In my setup, with just a 5 investment, we get 3 of them, right? So very good. All right, so talents, not common talents, but talent discussion. Well, I took, you get 5 talents, and then before level 15 you go into your advanced class, right? You can ignore the power armor proficiency. I kind of just took that as a joke, because I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get my Space Marine cosplay in a second here, right? Now I'm just kidding. But things here, there's a lot of good talents. Killing Plan is very good. I should have taken that as a common talent. I actually think it's available as a common talent, so I did mess up that, but I wanted to rush to get it. But you can always respec your class, no big deal, right? So I actually did a charge combo on this build. Why? Because we're gonna stack flat damage bonus, and charge is just actually just really incredible, because it pretty much enables you to get the 2 free attacks a turn. And I wanted to maximize it, right? Because there's not too many things here. As a greatsword focus, it is a primitive type. I couldn't find a primitive damage buff. Maybe you just use you know, melee weapon buff. Maybe there's a, you know, I could use a power weapon, but I kind of just like the greatsword, and at least in the early game, before having the respect, the primitive doesn't have, I couldn't find one, weapon proficiency or expert in it. So I'm like, okay, well, that frees up a talent, right? So I actually like, oh, let me do the charge combo, right? So the charge combo is just kind of crazy, because getting a +3 on the cell and then just making sure that you have a 5 distance is not hard at all. And because you get the +3, I think it's actually 6 cell distance, so before ramming speed, you have to pretty much really be perfect with it. But just getting the toughness and strength bonus, again, those are our big characteristics, along with weapon skill. You're gonna do insane damage, and I'll show up that like damage calculation in the bottom left too, but you'll kind of see how good it really is. I did want at least one tank kind of talent, just because, you know, we're gonna be in melee, we're warrior, gonna be in melee. We're going to take damage, increasing parry chance percentage of our total armor, because we are going to hopefully wear power armor in the future, our heavy armor. Those are actually different classes, but, you know, hopefully power armor in this game, I haven't got to that point yet. Hopefully it's like super tanky, has a lot of armor value, and we'll get the damage deflection and percentage parry from that. But damage deflection is very good, because it's going to reduce damage by a flat amount. Anytime you can reduce damage by a flat amount, it's very good. They kind of give you a little calculation here, hopefully, but you'll see pretty much it's calculated, I think, after armor. Let's see, I'm not sure. I think it's after armor, so you can't just stack it to ad infinitum and become like a immortal god. I know some people were talking about in the beta that they were able to do that, but I haven't really been able to do that. But generally, what they recommend is also very good, but a lot of these bonuses are just contingent upon different characteristics, right? So the epicenter of slaughter is very, very good, but you only get the 1 stack of temporary wounds, and we have other ways to generate like temporary wounds, for example. So I'm like, oh, there's really no point. Desolation is very, very good, but it's kind of situational, because what if you're trying to attack and then there are allies and adjacent cells, the enemies, right? Then you just lost a talent. The way I looked at it with ramming Spain the charge combo is that this is on demand. Every single round I get this benefit, right? And as a strength stacker, it's going to be huge, because now we're going to do more damage, and there is no, contingency on, oh well, I can't use it this round. I don't like things that are just 1-rounders. Really, I like permanent combat buffs and things I'm going to be able to utilize over and over and over again. Open engagement is also very, very good, but it's only for 1 melee attack, and it's only if no enemies are adjacent to the warrior at the start of the turn. So like, there are going to be situations where this won't come into effect, and again, I wanted reliable, consistent talents that are going to be able to consistently do massive amount of damage as I'm getting there, right? Now, I could pretty much take... I'm going to have to do a whole video on just talent selection here, but it's just kind of crazy how much stuff you really, really have. I already talked about Killing Plan, and I talked about Better to Die for the Emperor, right? But, talent selection really is personal preference. If you are the Death World type, getting, the hammer, the power weapon benefit with the, hammer or whatever power weapon you want, using the axe, there are some crazy damage numbers that you can do. That's the build that I did in the beta, so I already know it's great. And even the agi stacking, like the rigorous training, you hear too, you get the agi bonus for dodge, you get the agi bonus with enrage here too. So there's a lot of good things if you want to make a more agility focused build. But that's pretty much the talent selection too, and that's pretty much it. There's not much more to talk about from levels 1 to 15, because from here on out we're gonna go into the next advanced class, right? But that's pretty much it. This is how you really build it, and again, like, you do get the great swords in the game. It's pretty awesome. Like, I don't know, that's just awesome. And getting that much flat damage, like, I'll show you a couple clips here, but you do, you'll crit for 60s at least on a charge, right? Like in the 50s to 60s. It's kind of crazy. It's very, very good, guys. So yeah, Moser with Necron Tech Gear. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to be doing more Rogue Trader stuff in the immediate future. If you're probably still here, you might not still be here watching, but if you are, I understand these videos aren't going to do as well as the BG3 videos. Nothing is, because that's like honestly one of the most popular games of all time, but I'm still going to cover it. Having so much fun with this, and I can't wait to bring you guys more videos. Hope you have a good one.